in northern Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And my job is essentially to work with community partners such as your organization to bring the job information to folks and kind of give them an inside look on what it is to work for Amazon, what the benefits are, and where it could take them.
Would you like to show us your slide?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just before I get started, Amazonians in general, as we like to call ourselves, like to introduce ourselves with a peculiar fact as well. So I always like to share that when I'm talking to a new group. So my peculiar fact is I tend to read 5 to 6 books a week because I am a very fast reader, and my yearly count is at 328 books right now, which is quite a bit, but it's always a fun fact to share with people. So I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. Let me make sure that it lets me. And let me know if you're able to see my screen and if it looks like it is in presentation mode. Good to go? Awesome. So today I'm going to give an overview of hourly roles at Amazon, and I can kind of talk about locations that are nearby as well, but this is to give everyone a brief overview of what we do, what we offer, and where it could take you. So our mission is to be Earth's best employer. So that's something that we have added to what we call our leadership principles in the last year. So we're working to make continuous improvements. We want to make sure we're bringing in diverse employees. We believe every perspective and every walk of life brings the best results to innovate, especially when we're thinking about our customer service and how we evolve. So we're looking to provide the right kind of opportunities for individuals to thrive in all of our hourly positions, and then have the opportunity to move up from within to those salaried roles, those operation leader roles, and beyond. So some of the reasons you might love working for Amazon: benefits. We have paid time off, medical coverage, 401k. That starts from day one for what we call our blue badge or permanent employees. We hire seasonal and permanent, so you'll see some differences on our hiring page between the two, so always good to look to see which one you're applying to. We also offer career advancement. I'll talk more in depth about that a little bit later in the presentation, but we offer support with getting GEDs because we no longer require a high school diploma to start with us, which kind of gives folks an opportunity to then earn that, along with apprenticeships, certifications. We have a mentorship program, and also higher education, college support, and some more diverse things like HVAC and mechanics. We also have a work-life balance, so we have flex time schedules offered at quite a few sites. Our associates start with unpaid time off, and they earn paid time off from day one when they are a regular associate, so something that they'll be able to take advantage of. We also look to have a diverse culture. We like to bring our leadership up from within the warehouse itself. So a lot of our site leadership, I would say a good 75%, came from these entry-level positions and were moved up because they've learned the culture of their site, and they know all the things: safety, sustainability. They know how to run things efficiently. So we have quite a few different warehouse types, and a lot of times people, when they're thinking about Amazon, they're thinking of that giant warehouse where people are picking stuff off a shelf and packing a box. But that is just one part of the cycle. And that's actually the beginning of the cycle at what we call a fulfillment center, which is in the top left corner. So those are where items are picked and packaged. Then it goes to what we call the middle mile, which is a sortation center. So all the packages come in from these large fulfillment centers. It gets sorted into regions of a state. Once they've sorted into those regions, they go to our end mile, which is a delivery station. And those packages are sorted into their individual delivery routes so that they go right onto those little Amazon vans that you see in your neighborhood. We also have things like our XL warehouses. Those are things like TVs, refrigerators, stoves, things that couldn't normally be shipped out of a normal fulfillment center. They're going to go through those XL warehouses. We also have unique grocery warehouses. We call them fresh locations. So it is essentially like a big Costco with no customers. So people are picking and packing grocery orders for someone else to deliver. So people who are using the Prime Now grocery application, that's where those orders are coming from. And we have two locations actually in the immediate area, one in Boston and one in Everett. So that's a huge source of options for folks in the area. We also have Amazon Air, but we don't have that in this area, but I did want to mention it is a arm of the company. So typical duties you would see in a warehouse, if you're in a fulfillment center, you would see some pit equipment, so power industrial trucks. So we teach people how to use those safely, get them certifications. We use scanners and computers in the warehouse. So you might notice when you get your Amazon package in the mail, there's a lot of different barcodes all over the box. We use that in the process to kind of move the package along, and that kind of identifies where it needs to go next. So all of our associates are using scanners pretty consistently to move the packages in the correct area. Get order ready if you're in a fulfillment center, or direct it in the right direction if you're in the middle or last mile. Load the boxes for shipment, and receive and put inventory away if you are in a fulfillment center. So for grocery, a little bit different. You can kind of see in the picture these shelves lined with food. So they all have unique barcodes that the pickers use to find the items. So they go around with those carts, they use a scanner to scan the correct barcodes, pick the groceries, prepare them, and then actually flex drivers, which are people who drive part-time, actually come and take and deliver the groceries. So work-life balance, you have options at some sites, they're called anytime shifts or flex shifts. For example, our grocery sites are pretty famous for that. So you can pick your shift each week in advance. You only have to work a total of 4 shifts per month to stay employed when you have that type of setup. So if you're in school, that's a really good option for a lot of people who are finishing their education. And then we have PTO, vacation time, all of that starts accruing from day one. And also that unpaid time, they start with a balance of that. So if something happens, you would be able to utilize that without it penalizing you. Also have work breaks. Sortation centers in particular have some really great school accommodations for students. So those are a really good source for people who are in school as well. So benefits, healthcare, medical, dental, flex spending accounts, pretty much everything you would typically expect from a company. We also have maternity and paternal leave options, and this is available even to our entry-level associates in the warehouses. That's up to 20 weeks. And there's also a ramp back period, which is really unique. They will like slowly move you back into work after those 20 weeks, which is really beneficial for folks, especially when you're figuring out childcare, or coming back full go right after having a child is difficult. So they want to give you some time to transition back into that. We also have our employee support system. We have an accommodations team for anyone who may have a disability or need any accommodations at work. We have a whole team that works with you on that as well. So this is when I was talking about growing with Amazon. So there's a lot of different options. Our goal is to leave our communities better than when we came in. So we kind of renewed our commitment to that this year. So starting in January this year, we are now prepaying college tuition up to $5,250 per year for full-time employees, and for part-time over that work at least 20 hours a month, they get $2,500 as well. And that goes through a bachelor's degree, and we cover things like nursing, which we're not going to open a hospital, but again, that enhances the community we're in. We also cover things like HVAC, which is kind of a non-traditional thing you wouldn't expect us to cover. So it really ranges as long as a school is a career choice school. So for example, Ben Franklin Institute in Boston is a career choice school. Southern New Hampshire University, which is a major online provider in the US, is a career choice school. Bristol Community College in Massachusetts is as well. You can take any program that school offers on our dime. and it's prepaid, not tuition reimbursement. And that's available to associates after 90 days as a blue badge or regular employee. So huge, huge advancement. It used to be 1 year, now it's just 90 days, as long as you're a regular associate. We also provide help with, finishing that GED, like I mentioned. We have mentorships, all sorts of English proficiency. We do require our associates to be able to speak English proficient enough in the warehouse for safety. But a lot of folks want to continue, if they are working on English as a second language, to continue to improve. We do offer those classes paid for. GED pathways is more of those HVAC or electrical positions that you would want to, education you want to do. And then of course the college, as I mentioned. So the hiring process, this seems to be kind of a mystery for a lot of people. So I'm here to kind of get rid of that mystery. So our application and hiring process goes like this. We have an online job application. You go to a specific website, which I'll provide to you at the end of the presentation. Once you go there, you click search jobs near me, and you go ahead and put in your zip code. It'll show you all the warehouses nearby that are hiring, and you would then select it and go through the application process. Application process is pretty typical, just like creating a social media account. You have to create an account first and then go through the application process. At some point during the application, it will ask you to schedule your pre-hire appointment. And that is for you to bring in your work authorization documents to our team to be scanned and submitted, and then also to take an oral drug test. We do not have a resume required, and we don't require an interview, because this is truly entry level to get in and then be able to move up into other positions within the company that would require an interview later on. And then we also have the orientation. This is not completely updated because it was online still because of COVID protocols, but now it has moved back to the warehouse. So as of the last couple of weeks, orientation will happen on your first day and the first couple of days of work right at the site. You're going to receive an email for your first day. It'll tell you what to wear, where to go, what time to be there, and what to expect. We also have in our delivery stations and our sort centers and fulfillment centers, if you work in any of those type of facilities, we also provide safety composite shoes now. Since we need safety shoes in the warehouse, we've decided we're going to provide those free of charge to our employees when they're starting with us, which is a really great benefit. So during your hiring process, about 2 or 3, maybe 4 days after you've done your pre-hire appointment, you will be able to log back into your job account online and order your shoes. It'll be up to $110 credit on Zappos, and there are a lot of shoe options. So I have my safety shoes for when I go into the warehouse. They're really, really handy, and our associates get to keep those, and they get a new pair each year that they work for us to make sure that they're safe in the warehouse. So those are all some great benefits. All communications come by email. That also tends to confuse people. I know a lot of people are used to getting a call or assuming there will be a call. I just like to let people know that it all comes through email. All communications are email based, so it's always good to keep track of your email. And then this is the website I was talking about. Anytime you're looking to see what jobs are available, which warehouses are hiring, you would go to amazon.com/flexiblejobs. Now, it's important to know that our jobs refresh each week. So our labor orders, as we call them, our openings, are available from Saturdays until the following Friday night. So they're only open for that week, whether we fill them or not. So be aware, if you check and you see a warehouse that you like, you see a shift you like, I would apply to it. You can always withdraw later. It does not penalize you if you decide to withdraw later. It doesn't matter at all to us, but that shift will disappear. So just know, if you see something like, apply right then and there. And if you don't see something like, say the warehouse nearest you is not hiring that week, which happens, you can keep checking each week to see when it pops up. And then I was wondering, do you want me to go through the warehouses that are closest to Somerville? Awesome. So we have Boston, which is, let me actually share my other screen so I can kind of show you what the website looks like actually. Let me switch my screens. Yeah, that's the show. All right. Do you see this screen now with the list of warehouses? Perfect. So when you go to Amazon.com. Jobs. Ooh, if I could spell, that would be really good. Apparently my brain thinks it's Monday. It brings you to this page right here. You're going to click search jobs near you. You could go by warehouse, but I will tell you it's easier to just click search jobs near you. And then it's going to have you put in a zip code. I just put in one of the Boston zip codes just for this. And it shows you all the warehouses that are hiring. So it gives you a lot of information, like the type of warehouse, like this is a delivery station. So that's sorting them into those individual delivery routes. Tells you the type that are available, tells you if it's seasonal or regular, tells you pay rate up to, and then location. This one happens to have a sign-on bonus right now of 3,000. So you'll see bonuses if they're available right there as well. So warehouses that are close by hiring, we have Revere hiring for a multitude of shifts. We have the Boston Fresh Grocery Warehouses hiring. Everett is hiring. We have some a little bit further out depending on where people are located, but those are all hiring this week. And to give you an idea, when you find one you like, so say Revere, for example, and you click on it, it gives you the exact address of the warehouse so you can kind of determine transportation, whether it's really accessible for you, because we want to make sure this is sustainable, you're able to get to work, that's not going to be a barrier for you. It lets you know the pay rate up to, this is a sign-on bonus. And if you go over here and click work shift, this will open all the shift options that are currently available. So it gives you the days of the week, the times. A lot of the full-time hours you'll see in a delivery station are 1:20 a.m. to 11:50 a.m. 4 days a week. That's it's very weird. I call it fourth shift. Very typical for a delivery station because of the time of day. The packages have to be sorted to get to customers at the right time. So it is a bit unique, and I always like to be really upfront with people that though that's the shift, it's typically never going to change. So, you know, coming into the job knowing that's what the shift is. But they do sometimes come up with some other shifts. So like right now, they have a 30-hour per week option, Wednesday through Sunday from 6:20 p.m. to 12:50 a.m. So they do have some of these other shifts that pop up occasionally. Especially right now, they're trying some different shifts in the warehouse to see what could work for folks and still get the packages delivered on time. It gives you the pay rate as well and the potential start date. So really good for people when they're trying to plan when they could potentially start working, what they should expect for pay. It's very transparent about that. And then you'll see any bonuses. And then once you find a shift you like, you simply click on it and hit apply now, and it'll take you through the process to apply. This next step before you start the application process is the only other place that people get really confused. If you look at this screen, it looks like you should just put your email address in. But if you have never applied to Amazon before, you actually want to hit create one to create your Amazon job account first. If you do not do that, you'll put in your email and hit next, and the system will be like, you don't have an account. And then people kind of get stuck in a cycle of confusion. So if you've never applied to Amazon before, you hit create one. If you have, it is important to log back into your profile. So you put your email address in, and then on the next screen, you would put in the 6-digit PIN that you had created when you applied before. Any questions that anyone can think of? Oh, and there's a video too. There's videos at the top of each of the different types of warehouses, so you can actually get a glimpse of what it looks like as well, which is always handy to people.
So I have a question on the anytime shift.
Mhm,
So I know that I have a participant that she's in school on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday,
mhm.
and she gets out at 12. Is she literally able to like create a shift with Amazon to work with her school schedule like that?
No, so they don't create a shift to work with a school schedule. And the sort
Mhm.
center is what they can do. Like a lot of times, students will take like a leave of absence for like parts of a semester if their schedule doesn't match up, or they will like if they know they have finals and they need these 2 weeks before finals, the sort center has a little more flexibility for those things happening. They do not create specific shifts, though. I definitely want to be transparent about that. They don't have the ability to do that.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
Um, so the 90 days in Amazon, so you're saying if you're employed for 90 days and a person wants to go to school, it would be paid, um, prepaid so they could go to class. Is that what you were saying? To be
Correct.
clarified.
Yep.
Okay.
To be clear, the parameters around that is 90 days as a permanent or blue badge associate, so they can't be seasonal.
Blue
They
badge.
can start as seasonal and convert to a permanent employee, and as soon as they convert to permanent,
Mm-hmm.
that 90-day clock starts.
Okay.
And then they have access to our portal where they would sign up for classes with one of the schools that is available. So Southern New Hampshire University, for example, is one. They would be able to sign up. It is prepaid tuition, not tuition reimbursement. So definitely handy. But yes, I always like people to know you have to be regular permanent employee before that clock starts.
And another question. So I was listening to you saying that you have to check in to make sure, like, for the different jobs, because after a week they're cleared.
Mhm.
So does a person still have that job even though
So
that it clears?
yeah, if they applied to it and scheduled their pre-hire appointment,
Yeah.
like, so say for example, they applied to it on Thursday and
Mm-hmm.
then their pre-hire appointment is Monday. Yes, that shift is saved for them. Now,
Okay.
if they don't go to their scheduled pre-hire appointment, that then they lose the shift. That's why it's important to make sure you finish the application all the way through, schedule your pre-hire appointment, and go to your pre-hire appointment.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay.
Now, if they went to if they needed to reschedule, there's also a reschedule option to try to hold the shift a bit longer. But
Mm-hmm.
typically, the shift will disappear if they don't show up to their pre-hire appointment. It just gets released.
So is it literally that they have to apply every week?
Nope,
No,
nope.
it's
So
they're in there, but the shift that they want may change.
yeah, so they do not want to apply till they find the shift that they want.
Okay.
So like if they see the shift that they want, then they should apply and then
Mhm.
go to their pre-hire appointment. If they say, for example, they wanted uh Boston fresh
Mm.
warehouse, but this week they only have the flex 19-hour shifts.
Okay.
It's important to know that they need to work more than 20 hours
Okay.
to qualify for the education benefit, for example. So like I
Mm.
said, they have to work at least 20 hours. This is only 19 hours flex shifts. So they're waiting for a reduced 30-hour time or a 40-hour full-time position to show up here. They
Mhm.
would want to keep checking. They don't want to apply until they see that shift, because otherwise they're going to hold a shift that someone else can't take. It doesn't help them in the long run. You only need to apply once you find the shift that you want.
I understand. I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of confusion, so that's why I like
Mhm.
to clear up any questions.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very unique process.
It is, definitely.
And we do run our new hire appointments out of Boston, would probably be the closest for a lot of folks that work
Mhm.
with you. So
Yes.
we run that out of the Copley Marriott, which is on 110 Huntington Ave. We are there pretty frequently. I send out a newsletter each week with walk-in availability at that location.
Mhm.
So I think Renee's on that list to receive that hiring newsletter, and I can add anyone else that wants to be added. But also when they schedule their pre-hire appointment, they will see an option for Boston, and it has the address and all that information for them to attend.
Anybody else has any questions?
I have a question. I hid myself and I don't know how to unhide myself. I hid my video. So just so I'm clear, if someone finds a shift that they want, they apply for that shift. Do they have to go back the next week and apply for the same shift, or is that the shift they're
No.
like this? Okay.
As long as they completed the application all the way through and scheduled their pre-hire appointment, they know that they have that shift. Once they hit submit application and start their pre-hire activities, which is just completing section 1 of their form I-9, it'll actually prompt them to do that. As long as they've gotten that far and they scheduled their pre-hire appointment, that shift is theirs all the way up until the end of the day they scheduled their pre-hire appointment. So say, for example, they applied on Thursday, completed the application, and their appointment is Tuesday the following week. If they never show up to their pre-hire appointment on Tuesday, they lose that shift. But if they show up, their hiring process is completed. They're just waiting to hear back on their background check and their oral drug test.
Got it. Okay.
So I know that you said everything is like an email. Is there any way, because I'm sure that there's going to be people that's going to have questions on this
Oh yeah.
deeper. Is there a way that we could have customer service, or you guys just do not have any customer service on hand?
So on the page, they can contact our candidate help center. So
Okay.
if they're on this and they scroll all the way down, they can hit contact us. And it takes a moment to load. It says, which position are you applying for? They
Okay.
would simply select warehouse fulfillment delivery shopper. And then these are all the things they could ask, like my application, my shift, there's an issue with my shift, my Form I-9, my drug test, my background check,
Mm-hmm.
my start date, disability accommodation. They can select any of those, and then they can have them call them, they can text, or they can chat. So it makes it very efficient. Like if they do want to have applied though, because if they don't apply to anything, they don't have an account for us to like access and then help them with.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is how they would get any assistance with any of these possible issues.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also as a heads up with the oral drug test, because it does get asked really frequently, we do not test for THC at all. It's a common question. So I wanted to make sure I went over that too.
Stephanie, would you have a question?
Yeah, I actually wanted to know because I know the pay that is listed on the actual application. It's like a certainty that that's what they will be paid regardless of them, like for example, being like a fresh graduate from high school.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, let's just look at Canton. Let's look at Canton. So it says pay rate up to. So when you select the shift, it'll tell you exactly what the pay. This is their guaranteed pay. That's what that shift pays, regardless of their experience level. That's simply straightforward. That's the pay. And I will also say that regular employees, so if they're permanent or regular, they do get set raises too. So they get one at 6 months and one at 12 months. It does not happen for seasonal associates. Again, always want to be very transparent. And the other thing with seasonal, a lot of folks start out as seasonal. A lot of folks on our team started as seasonal in the warehouse. You can be transitioned to permanent regular. The warehouses actually keep a certain level of permanent employees at all times. So if it dips below that ratio, what they do is say, hey, we have our seasonal associates that have great attendance. They're really interested in the job. They want to be cross-trained. Like they really are invested. They're going to be looking to convert those seasonal associates to permanent to fill that gap.
And during, well, I ask this because in an application for a participant, they did everything online, then where they were working, they didn't have like a direct supervisor to report to. So I just wanted to know there is going to be, once they're in the warehouse, like there is somebody like present in the facility that is
Oh,
in
yeah.
charge of everybody and like can exactly tell them, this is your responsibility, this is what you're gonna do, see you next shift, like they will have that guidance.
Oh, absolutely. So the way it's set up in our warehouses, when they come in as a new associate, we actually have a learning team that is responsible for doing their training. And then they are transitioned to site supervisors. So we have process assistants, which are essentially assistant managers on our floors. And then we have area managers, which are essentially the shift leader. And then it goes all the way up. We have operation station managers. Those folks are on site, like in the action with them most of the time. For example, the closest warehouse to me is in Nashua, New Hampshire, because I live up in New Hampshire. And the operations manager is literally on the line with the associates moving the packages around. We have site HR that is on site at all the sites as well. So they will have that entire support team, and all of our leadership wears different color vests in the warehouse. So for example, HR is purple, operations and area managers are red, our learning team is blue, and process assistants wear their own special vests so that the employees can easily identify who they need to go to, who they want to talk to. And at the beginning of each shift, we have what we call a stand up. So all the associates come together and they go over assignments. They do stretches to prevent any injury. And then they're assigned stations, scanners, and they're kind of given an overview of what we're looking to do today, what the package volume is coming through so that they have an idea of what is coming for their shift.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, because I know that some people especially if it's maybe like their first official position or employment, they really want that guidance.
Absolutely.
So that they don't, mess anything up and they know exactly what to do. So that's good. That's good. And I also had another question regarding, let me go back up here. Remote positions, because there are some participants that are still a little bit weary with COVID, and just they would prefer to be able to work from home. Do you know would it be just listed in the website remote? Would I just have to put remote position on the website to find something like that?
No, so it's a completely separate website. So the website I shared is just for our sites, our actual like warehouses. None of them have remote workers. So if they're looking for a remote position, it would actually be on our corporate website. So that would be simply amazon.jobs, and then they can filter by area, remote, and everything from there as well.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. There are a lot of virtual on there, so there's some options.
That's good. Yeah, because I really do have participants that are still really worried about it. And I mean, it's understandable, especially if they've 2 years of just being stuck at home.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
So once you're a seasonal employee and then you transition over to a full-time employee, the time that you've worked isn't transferred over. It's like you're a new
Correct.
day one. Okay.
In terms of looking at the schooling, yes. The site leads will be able to see that they were seasonal for a period of time. So like their overall tenure, they'll be able to see that. But when we're talking about like benefits, yes, it starts as soon as they're converted to regular, they have access to the medical, dental, that maternity and paternal leave, all of that stuff. They have access to that as soon as they're converted. And then that 90-day clock starts for the education piece.
Okay, and I might have missed this. Are there any benefits for seasonal employees?
Just the employee assistance program, because a lot of the seasonals are anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. So they do not offer it for seasonal. But again, a lot of people come in as seasonal to try to then be converted to regular associates.
Okay.
And how successful is that conversion? Is it a really smooth transition, or do they really need to like work a little extra to climb up the ladder?
So it's not that they have to work extra. The things they want to do is make their intentions very clear to site leadership and HR. So it's on the employee, the associate, to say, hey, I want to be converted, because if they don't show any interest, the site will assume that they're just trying to make some extra money for a little bit. They're not interested in a permanent position. So it is, of course, they need to advocate for themselves. But that transition does happen pretty frequently. I've heard this story so much in the last year and a half that I've been with Amazon. It's not a guarantee, and I'm always very clear about that. If the site has a really great retention for their permanent employees, like for example, our Salem warehouse, they almost never hire because their employees, just where they live, they just don't leave. So that warehouse is always at that ratio of permanent employees. But a lot of our other warehouses are in more transitional areas for folks. A lot of people who are maybe immigrating, so they might work seasonal and then move on, or might come in as permanent because that's what they were hiring for that week and then leave after 6 to 8 months, which causes that deficit. Someone graduates from college, he moves up within the company or somewhere else. So we do see that fluctuate. Some warehouses, it happens less frequently than others. But as long as they're being really intentional about that, they need to make sure their attendance is good. If they're advocating to be cross-trained in areas, that is also a huge tally on their side to really possibly be converted. And they need to tell site HR and site leadership that they're interested in being converted to permanent regular.
Okay. Interesting. I had another question connected to that, but it just flew away. But another question I did have, it will. But the other question I did have, like in the case of somebody who needs like a visa sponsorship, is that something that Amazon does, or?
So as far as I'm aware, we don't currently sponsor visas. I don't know how that works on the corporate side because I do not do recruiting for the corporate side. That may be a different answer. I do know for the warehouses, we don't currently sponsor those. They do need work permits in order to apply for us, whether it's an I-94 that has been approved, not just the receipt that they applied for it. An I-55 stamp with a foreign passport, those kinds of things, permanent resident card or other. They would need that in order to work in our warehouses currently.
Awesome. And how quick is the hiring process?
That's a really great question. It is very quick. So they could be working in 2 to 3 weeks. So for example, I'm looking at Canton, start date of November 10th. So that's about 2 weeks. There can be delays if, for example, their background check is delayed. So, one of the organizations the background check company reached out to is not responding. They can see some delays, or if there was an error with their drug test, it does happen. Sometimes Quest has an error when they try to process it. We reach out to the candidate via email saying, hey, we need to do a retake of your drug tests, so that we can hold your shift. That's why it's essential for the candidates to check their email daily, so that if they get that kind of notification, they can pop into one of our hiring events, retake the drug test super quick, and get back on track. The longest I've seen is 3 weeks, but it's usually 2.
And I just remembered my question.
Awesome.
So let's say somebody graduates, right? And now they have their degree. Does that automatically mean they're going to get a pay bump?
No, so it doesn't mean that they're automatically getting a pay bump. At that point, we would be encouraging them to be placed in a different position. So part of our career choice program, one of the benefits is when they've graduated, we try to help place them, whether that's within Amazon or outside of Amazon. So we will try to, match their skills. Like, so say, for example, they got a degree in IT. The people in the career choice program would be trying to advocate for them applying to IT like positions within Amazon and going through the process. Since they're an internal candidate, obviously the application and interview process is a little bit easier than someone coming from external. because we already know their background. We already know their work ethic and what the things they put into it. But if, say, they get a degree in nursing, and obviously then they wouldn't want to work within a warehouse or one of the Amazon corporate roles at that point, we have a placement system. We work with some large scale companies, PepsiCo, Randstad, and so quite a few others to try to help get them in the right direction to get placed in another job in the field that they got the degree in. It's never a guarantee, but they do actively try to help place them.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. On the application process, is there a section for someone to put in if they needed a reasonable accommodation?
So not in the application. So there's two things they would want to do. There is a self-identification section of the application, which has zero bearing on their job. They are hired regardless. I self-identified when I started with Amazon. And if you have self-identified during the application process, at the end, then they call the accommodation team's phone number, which is provided to our candidates at our new hire events, so that when they come in to provide their paperwork, we can give them access to that phone number. They would simply call that phone number and start the process of requesting an accommodation.
Okay.
And that usually can get started around the time that they start the job.
Okay. And if someone was working with Amazon, life happened, they're not there, but then they want to come back, what does that rehire process look like?
Yeah, as long as they've left us on, good terms, there's no reason they couldn't be rehired. Usually there's like a 90-day waiting period because the system has to, reset. Usually there's like a 90-day period before they'd be able to reapply, but as long as they, left on good circumstances, they would be able to reapply, no problem.
Okay, and again, I was kind of in the background wearing multiple hats.
No
I'd
worries.
have to have a vest with several colors on it.
Right.
Working with you guys. So I think everybody, well, I know I am a Prime member, so I'm just wondering, as an employee, are there like Amazon perks that people normally get, like they don't have to pay for Amazon Prime, or it's a discounted Amazon Prime?
I wish I got Amazon Prime for free. So there's no free Prime. Actually, that is one of my number one questions, though. So you are not alone.
Okay.
We do get a 10% off discount code that we get each year, and we get up to $100 off. So after you've saved $100, it stops working. The reason behind this is a lot of products that are sold on Amazon are actually coming from small, medium businesses, like a very large portion of them. So that discount does not work on those companies' products, so that we're not cutting into their revenue. It works on anything that Amazon directly sources and sells. But yeah, just to keep in mind that that's what it is. And then of course we have, discount programs for like car rentals, hotels, normal company perks you would see from a large company, to be able to save some money there. And then of course the benefits themselves.
And the benefits start day
one if they're a regular permanent employee. Day one, healthcare, 401k, all of that stuff.
And that's full-time or part-time?
Part-time has access to medical, not the 401k, I believe.
Okay.
But they do have access to the medical, as long as they are more than 20 hours.
And because of the flexible schedule, there's no structured PTO. I don't want to call it structured, but like no structured PTO, because there's such flexibility. Yeah.
So essentially, if they're in a flex shift, they're more likely just to say, I don't want to take a shift that week, because they only have to work 4 shifts a month to stay employed. They have to work 12 hours minimum. So it's up to 19 hours per week because it's a flex shift. They're picking their own schedule. So they kind of have that ability to do that instead. It's built that way to make it so that they don't have to request PTOs. They can just pick their schedule and say, or I say, I don't want that shift because I have an appointment that day.
Right.
Options are good.
That's awesome. So I see there's a person named Veronica in the room. Veronica, do you have any questions?
Oh, hi, good morning. I have
Good morning.
one question. I think that you partially already answered that question. So pretty much the shortest shift is a 12-hour shift. It's not like that you can just come for like 4 hours, let's say every day, but 4 hours. No, that's not such an option. It's pretty much 12 hours or nothing.
No. So the flex shifts are generally actually 4 or 5 hour shifts. So they're typically no longer than that. You just have to work 12 hours per month or 4 shifts per month. So yeah, it's the flex shifts, they're usually like 4 hours typically.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, the flex shifts can be very confusing. So a lot of moving parts with that one.
It kind of sounds like a good like entryway.
Mhm.
It is
into-
a good entryway, for sure. And some of the sites, like for example, our fresh sites, if someone comes in as flex, and full-time opens up and the site says, hey, anybody want to go to full-time? You can't always do that at some of these sites, but fresh sites in particular seem to be able to do that because they would prefer to just take their flexible people who already know the job and just put them on full-time.
Mhm.
Which is kind of handy. But that's not always available. I just know in particular our fresh sites like doing that. So
Do you guys have detailed videos of actual the different actual warehouses, more than like a snippet, like almost like a walkthrough?
we don't have a walkthrough. Some of the reasons are just for like security and privacy, but they do have the snippets, and then usually they're like a minute long, which kind of shows you the general overview. And then there are a couple more. Trying to see. There's a couple other videos on Inside Amazon videos on YouTube. And there's a lot of like different warehouse ones. And then there's a more in-depth one on fulfillment centers in particular. We have like live tours we do of fulfillment centers each week that are digital. We don't really have that for like our sortation or delivery stations because they're a lot smaller in scale. Same thing with the grocery. But I do know the fulfillment centers. I can send the video for that one at least. Or the sign up for it. It's very unique. I had to take the tour when I started with Amazon, and I was like blown away. I was like, couldn't believe it. It was kind of insane, honestly. Live tours. I didn't realize they were so big, and since then I've gone to actually go in some of these fulfillment centers because I don't have one in my area. The closest thing near us is Fall River, which is a full-size fulfillment center. And then we have a baby fulfillment center. It's called a same-day fulfillment center. And we have one of those in Bridgewater, and it's a much smaller scale. It's like a fourth of a regular fulfillment center, but they're massive. And it's insane the amount of logistics that go into them, honestly. I never knew. That website, though, people can sign up for live tours. You click the link, click North America. You can also see them in other countries if you want to. They have some in-person options, so you can see what close by is in person. And they also have free live, and then they also have already set video tours as well. So you can kind of browse through them and see the different warehouses. It's always really unique for people to be able to see, and they really like that, to really get a perspective of what they're going to be doing, where they're going to be working.
Yeah, if you've never worked in a warehouse, it's
Yes,
it's an experience.
it's an experience for sure.
So in case we're not able to get the chat over there as well, it's amazontours.com. So you can kind of take a peek into what it looks like on the inside of Amazon.
Yes,
I will be doing that myself because I'd love to see what y'all's warehouse looks like. That'll be fun.
it's a lot of fun.
So I have a question. Say that a person got hired here in Boston and then they move out of state. Does their hiring information is that able to travel with them, or they have to do the whole process all over again in another state and get rehired and go through the process again?
That's a really good question. So the answer is it's situational. So it really depends on if the warehouse they're like, say they want to transfer. Transfers are not typical, I'll be honest, unless it's like a hardship transfer. So, they're moving because they need to take care of a disabled relative, something's come up. Usually site HR is able to kind of work with the local site on that, where they're moving to. But it depends on if that new site has capacity to take on another person too. So if they're maxed out on capacity, it's just simply impossible for them to take on another person and still be within safety parameters. So they're really very careful about that. I have seen hardship transfers for that reason, but it's not a guarantee. They would want to work with site HR at their current site and have them kind of communicate with that new site they're moving to. And it is a possibility, but just never a guarantee because of those situations.
So if someone had moved, say, from the Boston area to like Springfield, could they put in a transfer and then just kind of be put on almost like a waiting list and just do the commute until something opened up, since it's a shorter distance? I mean, like
They
not
could.
moving to the state.
They could. They would want to continually check in
Mhm.
with HR, especially at that new site. Be like, hey, like has this come up? Like they just want to be. It is on them to continually check in because the sites are large. Our HR staff, have 200 plus employees that they're working with at any given time. So it's just on the associate to continually, touch base with their leadership, the HR, and be like, hey, is this a possibility? Just because it is not a guarantee. And we don't want to promise anyone it's going to be a guarantee when
Right.
again, transparency. I'm not going to promise the moon to people because if it can't happen, I don't want there to be surprises down the road.
Right.
How about there's a participant that doesn't want to work in a warehouse or does the deliveries? Is there any office jobs available out there?
So there isn't necessarily office jobs. You will occasionally see in our warehouses, like there's office jobs on the corporate side, but when we're
Mhm.
talking about the warehouse side, there is sometimes, let me share my screen again really quick. Sometimes a unique opportunity that pops up on the same hiring page I provided, the amazon.com/flexible jobs. Occasionally you'll see one that says this, delivery station team member instead of associate. And you can notice it has like regular, so it's permanent, it's full-time. When you click on it, it's a very different description. These are essentially the go between our drivers while they're delivering and the warehouse. So if customer issues come in during that time frame, these are the people that are dealing with it. So it's kind of atypical warehouse work. It's almost like a customer service role within the actual site. These do not always come up. They are very popular. They do require an interview process, very customer service focused. And they have a completely different shift. So for example, this one's 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. So it's more of a daytime shift, which you don't typically see at a delivery station. This is a really unique opportunity for those folks. So when they see it's a delivery station team member and they're a liaison. So that's a really great, they do require a high school diploma for that because it's customer service based. It's more of a higher role. And that can lead into a good quick avenue to move into other leadership. We do not handle the hiring for that role because it does require an interview, but they can apply using this website. Again, information on setting up the interview would all go through email. And they have it's more of a corporate hiring process versus the entry level, but those do pop up. And then for delivery drivers, this usually throws people off, but the little Amazon vans you see are not actual Amazon employees. All of the delivery companies are third-party providers. We call them DSPs. But if you go to the flexible jobs page, you'll notice there is a link for it because we want to connect people who are looking for driving positions with the companies that are hiring. So they would simply click on that link. It tells them like, hey, this is what it's like to work for one of the providers. This is the typical shifts they offer, 4 10-hour days, overtime, opportunity for promotion, questions that are typically asked. And then if they click on apply with Amazon delivery service partner here, it takes them to a link where they can literally put in location and find these companies and apply with them directly. So it's kind of like this avenue. While we don't hire for them and they're not Amazon employees, we're a network. We have to work together. So we have that right on our hiring page for those folks that are looking for those delivery driving jobs. They do typically need to be 21 years or older. So I'll just put that out there, and have a good driving record, obviously. And they do, I believe, help them with their CDL as well.
What if they just received their license, like, let's say, like 6 months ago, right? But you need a driving record. I mean, there isn't really much of a record if it's so like new. Would that pose like a problem?
I can't answer that with 100% certainty just because they are all individually owned. But I would assume as long as the current record is clear and they interview well, I doubt it would be a huge obstacle. But I can't say that with confidence because they are all individually owned. They kind of set their own standard for who they hire, and who is driving their vehicles.
And I know that you said in your presentation you were talking about basic level of English. Let's say like they just know like simple English, like sentences and phrases, and they're also on the older side. Do you think that, I mean, do you see that often, like them, like, because I'm thinking of a specific participant of mine, and she doesn't want to do anything too extremely physical.
Sure.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So we do have a lot of older folks that work in our warehouses. We actually have a large population of recent retirees that actually come and work for us part-time. That's actually really common, especially in the last couple of years with inflation. It is a very physical job. So again, when we're going through the hiring process and they come into that pre-hire appointment, we're telling them that they're on their feet for their shift. Like we're talking about what they can lift up to, because it is up to 49 pounds with or without reasonable accommodations. They are on their feet for their entire shift. Now, if they're working part-time, it'd probably be okay. The 40 hours is a lot more rigorous. I'm going to be honest with you. It is hard for folks who are not looking for super physical work. The English barrier, they do need a basic level of for safety reasons. So they need to be able to pass safety school, which they will have during training. And they will need to be able to respond to, quick commands in English, like falling package, watch out, swinging door. Just for safety reasons, they have to have the level of English where they would be able to react quickly and to make it through safety school in English. So it really depends. It's hard to gauge if you think about it, where that level is. If you think they'd be able to make it through safety school, they can make it through our hiring process in English, coming into the hiring event, following the instructions through the drug test and all of that. They might be okay, but really we won't know until they get to the site and start that safety training to really see.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
Did
problem.
you happen to have a requirement in regard to COVID vaccination? Okay.
No COVID vaccinations required. We didn't require them at any point. It was an option. We did offer a bonus to our employees for a while when they were getting it. That has ended, but they are not required to, nor are they required to wear a mask unless state mandates or federal mandates change.
Okay. And you mentioned helping to get someone CDL. Is that through the Amazon portion of it, or is that the drivers?
The driving companies, a lot of them help with the CDL.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of them want them. It's not all of them, but a lot of them want them to get their CDL,
Yeah.
which is great. If they can help them get that, that's a great benefit. For
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
feel like we've gotten a lot of great information out.
I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is awesome. And I love the fact that we'll be able to post it. And then, if somebody's up at 3 a.m. and can't sleep and be like, oh my God.
Yes.
Amazon. It's just, like I had told people before, we haven't done it this way before.
Yeah.
And so the more questions everybody has, the more chances that people will be like, I'm going into this with all the knowledge that I need to know.
Yes.
Whether it's
Absolutely.
where to go to apply, what does it look like on the inside of the warehouse? I'm not taking any vaccinations. Do I need to do that? It's a lot of information that we're just gonna kind of put out there and people can get it whenever they need it. So this is awesome.
And I posted the link again in case anyone didn't catch it the first time around. If they're like watching the recording, it's just amazon.com/flexible-jobs. And then, narrowing by their zip code. And then of course, if people run into issues at any point, we're available. We're happy to answer any random questions that come through because there's always random questions. Amazon is a large company. And you can't always get in contact with someone directly from a large company that handles a lot of these things. So we're kind of that bridge to answer and solve any of those mysteries.
Awesome. That is awesome.
So with the text alert, is that like once a week when the new schedule goes up that you get a text?
So the text alert, it actually has you put in your zip code specifically during the setup process of it. So it will only give you warehouse alerts for a certain parameter, which I think is like 15 to 20 miles, 15 miles, I think on average. So you'll get an alert for only those warehouses and when they post. It'll also give you alerts if those warehouses have sign-on bonuses or pay increases. So it's definitely handy if you're not sure which location you want to do.
Nice.
Nice. All right. Well, if anybody else have any questions, you could ask. If not, I guess we can wrap it up from here. Thank you, Holly. Thank you for showing up and giving us the information. It was very informative. Yeah, very, very good.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, coaches and manager and Veronica, thank you for showing up as well. If you need a coach, Veronica, please leave your information here and we could connect you to a coach and we could go from there with you as well. But have a good day, everybody. And that is the end of our networking cafe.
Thanks, Holly.
Thank
No problem. Have a
you.
great day, everyone.
You
Thank
too.
you. Bye-bye.